there's been, people like Bill O'Reilly on Fox News who, basically went on the air saying something to the nature of, if something like this if transgender people were permitted to use the restrooms of their choice, they could be able to, any, in his words, wise guy could, go into a single sex facility and use it for malicious intent. I really think that we have to look at statistics here, because the prevalence of people who are being harassed, bullied, physically and sexually assaulted are far more higher in incidence than anything like that going on. And in fact, all of the stories or anything that I've heard of anything like that happening are very, very slim, if at all. I was unable in any of my research to find anything like this other than strange myths or urban myths that were actually were debunked by conservative, these.
Does the law say that?
No, I don't think that the law says that. I think that people who have malicious intent, regardless of what the legislation is anyway, are probably going to some extent, act on those desires. So legislation would usually be something that would be something that would penalize someone after the act had already happened. But if something like this is in place, I don't think that it's necessarily going to either open the door or even be in, if the bill were to pass, I don't think it's going to be a preventative either. I think that traveling into that territory could probably be very problematic. I think that people's gender identity and their spectrum, like I said to the previous caller, is kind of, there's a large spectrum there. And so it's difficult to say, making somebody, whether they're not a bona fide transsexual, bona fide male, bona fide female, I mean, this gets all into, the construct of gender and things like that. But
So Jim, I'm going to interrupt here for a second and just point out that you're talking as if there's some sort of legislation that's allowing this, and it's not what you're saying. It's not allowing it. The situation you're describing is what's existed since the beginning of time, and I think the point that Gianna's trying to make is, literally anyone can walk into any bathroom they want, but people don't often do that unless they have malicious intent, and this legislation it seems like it's a solution in search of a problem. That there's really not a problem where you have these huge hordes of transgendered individuals trying to go into different bathrooms just to cause trouble. So I don't see it. If you can give me an example, then I could change my mind.
I'd actually like to just chime in real quick and say that the transsexualism as it exists textbook or as it's been medicalized, there are actually standards in place for people who choose to take hormone therapy or choose to physically alter their bodies, or basically allow their bodies to be more in alignment with who they feel they are. And so there are to some degree, before anybody chooses to physically alter their bodies and things of that nature, there are things that they typically undergo, such as psychological counseling, meeting with different doctors and things like that. And as far as it goes for schools, usually when a school is allowing a transgender person to identify and use a bathroom that they choose to use. Typically, there's a lot of dialogue between the parents, teachers, and other faculty and staff, obviously in schools that are more open and progressive to doing so. But it also requires some type of confirmation and letters from doctors and things like that. Now, I mean, that in itself could be a bit problematic, but it's not as though it's just a complete free-for-all in which people are just saying, okay, I identify as such and such, and I'm going to walk into such and such bathroom. And I mean, think about, also if this bill were to be passed, a transgender man, somebody who was assigned female at birth and has choose to physically change themselves, who by all accounts may be looking like a fully grown man with a beard, muscular stature and things of that nature, they would be also forced to walk into a woman's bathroom. And while I would not say that they would be there for malicious purposes, obviously, but it definitely might make people even more uncomfortable to see what is, a full-grown man walking into a woman's bathroom.
Jim, thanks so much for that call. I'm going to move on to some other callers. If you'd like to join the conversation, the number is 813-239-9663 if you agree or disagree with anything you've heard so far. And you can also send us an email at dj@wmnf.org or a text to 813-433-0885. My name is Sean Canan. I'm the host of Midpoint on Monday, and my guest is Gianna Love. She's a transgender activist, and we're still hoping to get Terry Kemple, president of the Community Issues Council and a conservative activist, on the phone. We're trying to reach him. But if in the meantime, give us a call, 813-239-9663. It's 12:39 in the afternoon, and we're going to go now to Jack in Venice. Hi, Jack. You're doing just great.
So could I just chime in real quick with that? HB 583 does have exceptions to the language of the bill, in which if there are two single-sex bathrooms in an establishment and one's not being used, as long as the one is not occupied by another person, somebody who is a gender that is not necessarily the one that's on the door can use the other bathroom, which would be one of the exemptions. I think that would be a really rare, that's a very kind of like, yeah, I think that would be the least of the concerns right now, wouldn't necessarily be Halloween costume.
Jack, thanks for your thoughts. All right. Great, thanks so much. And we're going to go now to Elise in Tampa. Am I pronouncing your name right? Go ahead, please. And the bill is trying to change that, is trying to dictate which bathrooms people should use.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, it's interesting that would be being put in place. I'm not sure even, I guess I don't know fully how that would even be enforced in some circumstances. I think that it would probably wrongfully target people who might be visibly transgender or visibly non-conforming. And so I think that those people are already subject to a lot of harassment and discrimination. And I think that would push them even more into a place of further harassment and discrimination than what they're already experiencing.
Yeah, I wonder if there's going to be like a person outside every bathroom checking your pants, let's say. I hope not.
I mean, I personally, regardless of this bill, I am not going to be walking or subjecting myself to any kind of violence by using the male bathroom.
Elise, thanks for your call. Thank you. The number is 813-239-9663. You can email us at dj@wmnf.org. My guest is Gianna Love. She's a transgender activist in Tampa. And my name is Sean Canan. You're listening to Midpoint. It's 12:43 in the afternoon. And let me read a text that we just got in. This person from 727 says, in order to support this bill, you would have to believe that the only thing keeping a sexual predator from acting on their urges is a women's or men's sign on a door, and that's illogical, this person says. And they go on, if someone wants to violate another person, they've already committed to breaking the law. A sign on the door is not going to deter them. So that's a comment there from the 727 area code. Let's go back to the phones, and Andrew has been waiting a long time. Hi, Andrew. Andrew, you're kind of breaking up. Can you make your point quickly? Thank you so much, Andrew. All right, let's go to Dave, who is driving. Dave. Hi. Hi.
Uh, yeah, there's an exemption for, as far as I understand the language of the bill, a potential exemption would be if there were a male and female bathroom that was marked on the door, and it was only a single stall or single toilet in that bathroom. Then that person, somebody could potentially use that bathroom as long as, I guess, they're not in there with anyone else. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty basic fact that, everybody has to go to the bathroom regardless of how they identify with their gender or what gender they were assigned at birth. And so, the interesting thing too that I was thinking about is that transgender women in particular, this is the weird sort of irony, is that when they choose to take hormone therapy, the most commonly prescribed medication is spironolactone, which is a testosterone blocking diuretic. And so it increases the amount of urination that is occurring. And so actually it's already unhealthy to retain urine for anyone. But if you're also on a diuretic medication, it can actually increase the buildup of things such as potassium, which could potentially result in hyperkalemia or an elevation of potassium in the blood, which is a side effect, rare but dangerous side effect of that medication. And it's just sort of like a strange irony almost that they would be on this, transgender women, we would be on this diuretic medication and then also be put into a circumstance in which we have no idea which restroom to use.
And those usually have men's and women's icons on the front, so they kind of understand that it could be whoever going in. All right. Well, Dave, thanks for making your point. We're going to move on. I want to read a text, and this person from 813 says, "Are there not unisex bathrooms in countries overseas? Why are Americans so hung up on this issue?" So, Gianna, is this something that's really mainly an issue here, and over there they might have gotten over this kind of thing?
I mean, I think the bathroom situation is different depending on where you're at. I think in some countries, basically, a bathroom is just a place where you can go that has a hole in the ground, and good luck while you're in there. I think that there's there's a high level of really strange kind of conservatism here that is very, I guess you would say, strongly opposed to any kind of like variations in gender. And so it's just interesting how sometimes, a sign on the door is something that people are really caught up by. And I think that it's being framed as something that is going to serve public health or safety, when in actuality, I think it's endangering, an entire population.
813-239-9663 or dj@wmnf.org if you'd like to join this conversation. You're listening to Midpoint. My name is Sean Canan. My guest is Gianna Love, a transgender activist, and we're talking about a bill in the Florida legislature that would tell people which bathroom to use. Especially they're gearing it, I guess, toward transgender people, saying that they should use the gender that they were assigned at birth. And we have Adrian on the line in Tampa. Hi, Adrian. All right, thank you for that comment, Adrian. And we'll go now to Jonathan in Lakeland. Hi, Jonathan. Very good.
I have a quick question for you. You brought up the sacred vow of marriage, and how that would violate that. First, I would just want to know how you define gender, and second of all, what would you think about a situation in which a very attractive young transgender woman would be walking into a male bathroom with married men who has, has by all means the body and the look of an attractive young woman? Okay, well, that's an opinion, but do you think that, how would that, like my original question that I posed to you, how would that help, you're saying that you would like to protect the sacred vow of marriage, so how would that help by keeping a transgender woman out of the male bathroom, or, excuse me. Okay, well, thankfully, our nation is, founded upon a separation of church and state, or at least is traveling in that direction. So I don't think that, we're living in a theocracy. Well, modern democracy is not a theocracy. We're not governing our nation by any sort of religious laws, at least, not directly.
Jonathan, thanks so much for that call. If you agree with Jonathan or if you disagree, please give us a call, 813-239-9663. I want to go to Diane in Tampa. Hi, Diane.